2026. Total deliveries over 4.1 million vehicles, and that's a 30% growth, like a 32% growth compared to 2025. So we got rid of the 50%. Maybe 2027 it won't be the 50% because we got the compact car being ramped up aggressively, and we know that's going to take majority of deliveries. Average selling price did get dropped down from 45,000 on the average to 43.8. Why? I'm assuming that the compact car is going to slowly make an impact and drag the average selling price down if it's being priced at 20,000 to 25,000. Credits I kept the same at 1.6. I do think legacy automakers are still going to be thinking, oh, the future's not the EVs and nobody wants an EV anymore. They just want gas cars. I think they're going to be late to the party until it's going to continue selling these credits to them. Services is growing big time because we got more vehicles on the road and they need more services. Leasing is increasing massively. I put here almost a threefold because interest rate is being cut. So that's going to be insane. For the vehicle gross profits, I just capped it at 20%. I think going over 20% and full self-driving is still not in the equation yet. I think it's irresponsible. Comment down below. I think this may be wrong, but I just kept it at 20% just to stay conservative. That'll give us a total GAAP gross profits of almost 21%. Energy almost at 20 billion. Like, that's just rocketing big time. Profits almost 4.6 billion, growing 50%. Absolutely madness. Personally, I do think energy is going to grow much faster than this, but you guys know me, I like to stay conservative. Operating cost is growing as it normally should. Taxes, I again kept it at 1 billion. It's kind of tricky when it comes to these companies because they know really well how to avoid tax. Interest income does keep getting lower and lower because interest rates, it's 2026, guys. If nothing has happened bad in the world and we have inflation under control, there's no reason for interest rates to be around 3-4%. I'm assuming around 2% around there. And majority of Tesla's cash position would be building new factories, going into work. They will not leave it in bonds or high yield savings accounts. Just look at the quarter revenues. Quarter over quarter in 2026, 50 billion, 56 billion, 60 billion, 66 billion. That's crazy. Operating margin almost at 12%, average up from 10.1% to 11.4%. Absolutely insane. Net income non-GAAP almost reaching $28 billion and GAAP around $26 billion. And look at the total revenue of 2026. $233 billion. The EPS non-GAAP $7.58 compared to $5.39, and the total GAAP EPS $4.86 in 2025, $7.04 up, like literally 50%. Now the PE in Q1 of 2026, I put a PE of 85. Now again, I do think 2026 is the year where compact car gets released. FSD is getting more and more well known. More and more countries are accepting it. There's more data to it, but we haven't included this here yet. But assuming that's what's happening as well, and maybe robotaxis are out, and maybe licensing is already happening with FSD, so we don't know that yet. But with all that keeping in mind, an 85 PE I put here has a stock price of 462 and a market cap of over 1.6 trillion. In Q2 2026, PE of 80, that's a stock price of 478 and a market cap of almost 1.7 trillion. Q3 of 2026, 75 PE has a stock price of 487, so not too much of a difference there, and a market cap of 1.75 trillion. In Q4 or year end of 2026, 70 PE and a stock price of 493 bucks and a market cap just reaching almost 1.8 trillion. Now, most likely, if Tesla's doing all this and we got FSD at 70 PE, it won't make sense by end of 2026. I would think around 80 PE, and I think that's the max, and that's a market cap of 2 trillion and a stock price of 563. But keep it conservative, and obviously it's really hard to think that far and project that far. And I worked on these numbers. It took me a few hours to work on these numbers to see what's realistic, what is not. So I'm going to cap it at this. Until Tesla doesn't have the FSD software included in income, this is what I think what could happen, because we don't have a clear picture how FSD is going to do, because we know FSD, the future cash flow of that, the future profits of that is what's going to take Tesla stock to new flipping heights. So there you guys have it. Q4 or end of year end of 2026, that's when realistically and fundamentally Tesla stock would be worth 500 if you guys want a fair price. If you guys want $500 to be a fair price, that's 2026. If you want it to be looking forward another 5 years, then a PE of 100, around $700 per share maybe 120, around 845 by 2026 makes sense. But that's looking 5 years ahead from 2026. If you want to look at it now, what the company is doing right now, and as well as having some stuff what's happening in the next couple of years or so, 70 PE, because that's still a high multiple. 70 PE is still a high multiple. That's a stock price of $493.